Have you ever spent a whole night wide awake, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep? If it happens for just a few nights, it may feel uncomfortable. Imagine if that continued for years, even a whole decade. What would your life be? Like, today, I want to share my true story, my 10-year battle with insomnia, and everything I went through. I still remember very clearly the first year I began struggling with sleep. At first, it was just a few restless nights. I thought maybe it was because of stress at work or a late cup of coffee. But soon, those few sleepless nights turned into many. The more I worried, the less I could sleep. And so the vicious cycle began. There were nights when I watched the clock tick from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Then 3 a.m., and still my eyes were wide open. I tossed and turned, rolled left and right, tried counting sheep, even practiced meditation, but nothing worked. By the time I heard birds chirping outside my window, I knew I had stayed awake the entire night. During the day, I was like a walking ghost. I went to work, I talked to people, but it felt like my mind was covered by a thick fog. I couldn't focus. My memory declined, and my mood was constantly irritable. Even small, kind words from others felt exhausting. At one point, I even developed a fear of bedtime. Instead of feeling calm as night approached, I became anxious. Will I sleep tonight? Or will it be another sleepless battle? That fear itself kept me awake. This is what's called sleep anxiety, one of the biggest enemies of chronic INSX. Throughout those 10 years, I experienced the full range of emotions: hope, disappointment, and despair. I cried at night. I thought I would never be able to live like a normal person again. Sometimes I even wondered, can I keep living like this if I never sleep properly again? I remember one particular night. After nearly a week of only 2 to 3 hours of sleep each night, I sat in the darkness feeling like my body was falling apart. My eyes burned, my heart raced, my head spun. I was terrified. I thought, if this keeps going, I will collapse completely. People who have never experienced insomnia often can't understand, they say. Just lie down and sleep. How can you not? For those of us with insomnia, sleep isn't natural anymore. It becomes a battle, a nightly challenge. And I fought that battle for 10 long years. The worst part wasn't just the lack of sleep. It was the loneliness. In the middle of the night, while the whole world was fast asleep, I lay there, eyes wide open. I felt left behind, as if everyone else lived in a normal rhythm while I was stuck out of sync. 10 years, such a long time that sometimes I can't even remember the last time I had a truly restful night. All I knew was that every morning, I woke up with a heavy body, a weary mind, and had to force myself to start another day. But those years also taught me lessons. They showed me how precious sleep really is. They made me realize that if I wanted to overcome this, I had to change, not just what I did at night, but the way I lived and thought. And that is what I will share in the next parts of my story. From trying countless methods that failed, to the turning point when I finally discovered what really helped me restore my sleep. After years of sleepless nights, I realized I couldn't just keep enduring it. I had to find a solution. And so began my long journey of trying almost every method that people recommended, hoping that one of them would bring me back the gift of sleep. At first, I turned to medications. A doctor prescribed me sleeping pills, and for a while, they seemed like a miracle. I could finally fall asleep within half an hour, and I slept for 5 or 6 hours straight. But very quickly, I noticed the side effects. My mornings felt heavy, my head foggy, and my body sluggish. It was as if I hadn't truly rested, only forced myself into unconsciousness. Worse, the more I used those pills, the less effective they became. I needed a higher dose to achieve the same effect. And deep inside, I was terrified. If I keep relying on these, will I ever be able to sleep on my own again? That fear made me decide to stop before I became fully dependent next. I tried herbal teas and natural remedies: chamomile, lavender, valerian root, warm milk before bed. You name it, I tried it. Some nights I thought they worked, but after a few days, the effect disappeared. It felt like a fleeting hope that kept slipping through my hands. Then I turned to music and sound therapy. I downloaded endless playlists of calming sounds, ocean waves, rainforest rain, piano lullabies, white noise. Sometimes they helped me feel more relaxed, but other times I became more anxious, lying there thinking, why am I still awake, even with all this peaceful music? The very tool meant to calm me started becoming another trigger for my frustration. I also tried strict routines. I forced myself to lie down at exactly 10 p.m. every night, no matter what. But as I lay in bed wide awake, watching the minutes pass by, the pressure only grew stronger. Instead of drifting into sleep, I found myself locked in a battle with the clock. Friends and family offered countless suggestions. Some told me to exercise harder during the day so I'd be tired enough to sleep. Others told me to just stop thinking too much. I tried meditation, yoga, breathing exercises. Some days they seemed to help, but other nights I sat in the dark, frustrated that nothing could truly break the cycle. I even experimented with changing my sleeping environment. I bought new pillows, softer blankets, blackout curtains, rearranged the furniture in my room, adjusted the temperature, added essential oil diffusers. I turned my bedroom into what should have been the perfect sanctuary. Yet even there, in the most comfortable space I could create, my mind still refused to switch off. The hardest part was the constant roller coaster of hope and disappointment. Every time I tried a new method, I would feel hopeful. Maybe this is the answer. Maybe this will finally work. And when it failed, the disappointment cut even deeper. The cycle of hope and despair was just as exhausting as the insomnia itself. There were moments when I almost gave up thinking, maybe this is just my fate. Maybe I will live the rest of my life like this. But a small voice inside me refused to surrender. It whispered, there has to be a reason, and there has to be a way. Looking back now, I realized those failures taught me something important. They showed me that insomnia isn't just about the act of sleeping. It's about how I lived my days, how I treated my mind, and how I approached rest. No pill, no tea. No sound machine could truly fix the problem if I didn't change from within. And that realization was the turning point. Because after trying and failing with so many external solutions, I finally began to ask myself, what is really happening? Inside me? Why am I not able to sleep naturally like before? That question opened the door to the next stage of my journey, understanding the real causes of my insomnia. And once I understood, everything began to shift. For nearly a decade, I lived in a constant struggle with insomnia. I thought I had tried everything: pills, teas, routines, sounds, even changing my entire bedroom. Nothing lasted. Each time, I returned to the same place, wide awake at night, exhausted during the day. It was only when I stopped chasing solutions outside of myself and started looking inward that I began to uncover the real causes of my sleepless and ESS. The first thing I realized was that my relationship with sleep had become broken. In the beginning, sleep was something natural. I didn't think about it. I just lived my day, went to bed, and my body knew what to do. But after years of insomnia, I no longer trusted my own ability to sleep. Bedtime became a battlefield. The more I wanted to sleep, the more pressure I put on myself, and the more impossible it became. This is what experts call the paradox of sleep. The harder you try to force it, the more it slips away. It's like trying to catch a soap bubble with your hands. The tighter you grip, the quicker it bursts. I had fallen into this paradox without even knowing it. Every night, as soon as I lay down, my brain switched into alert mode. Will tonight be another sleepless night? That fear alone was enough to keep me awake. The second realization was that stress and anxiety were fueling the fire. During the day, I carried the weight of deadlines, responsibilities, and worries about the future. At night, instead of unwinding, my brain replayed every unfinished task, every mistake, every fear. My bed became less of a resting place and more of a stage where my thoughts performed endlessly. Even when I felt physically tired, my mind refused to let go. I also discovered the role of habits. Without realizing it, I had created patterns that sabotaged my sleep. For example, I often drank coffee late in the afternoon to push through my fatigue, not realizing how long caffeine lingers in the body. I used my phone right before bed, scrolling endlessly, exposing myself to bright blue light that told my brain it was still daytime. I kept irregular sleep hours, staying up late on some nights, sleeping in on others, confusing my bodies. Natural rhythm. These little habits, small on their own, built up into a wall that blocked me from sleep. Another layer was emotional suppression. Over those years, I carried unspoken worries, disappointments, and even grief. Instead of facing them, I tried to bury them under work, entertainment, or distraction. But at night, when everything grew quiet, those emotions resurfaced. My sleeplessness was, in many ways, my body's way of telling me, you haven't dealt with what's inside. And until you do, I won't let you rest. Perhaps the most profound insight was that insomnia wasn't just about the night, it was about the entire day. I had always thought of sleep as something separate, something that only happened once I turned off the lights. But I began to see that sleep is built during the day, how much sunlight I got, how active I was, what I ate, how I managed stress, how I balanced work and rest. My nights were simply reflecting the way I lived my days. This understanding changed everything. Instead of asking, how do I sleep tonight? I started asking, how do I live today so that my body feels ready for rest later? It was a subtle but powerful shift. Sleep was no longer the enemy I had to conquer. It was a friend I had neglected, and I needed to rebuild that friendship. I remember one evening, sitting quietly after another failed attempt to force myself to sleep. I turned off the lights, put away the phone, and instead of fighting, I whispered to myself, it's okay if I don't sleep tonight. I'll still rest.
Ow.
My body knows what to do, even if it takes time. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of relief. I realized the biggest cause of my insomnia wasn't the absence of sleep. It was my fear of not sleeping. That night, I didn't fall asleep immediately, but I noticed something different. I wasn't panicking. I let my thoughts flow without resistance. I accepted that my body might need more time. Slowly, in that space of acceptance, my eyelids grew heavier. It wasn't perfect, but it was a beginning. Looking back, I see that this stage, understanding the real causes, was the bridge between my darkest years and my recovery. Without identifying the fear, the stress, the broken habits, and the daytime choices that shaped my nights, I would never have found a lasting solution. The truth is, insomnia isn't solved by a single miracle cure. It's solved by understanding yourself, your mind, your habits, your fears, your rhythms. Once you see clearly, you can begin to change. And that realization led me to the most important chapter of my journey, transforming my daily habits. To restore natural sleep, when I finally understood that my insomnia was not a random curse, but the result of years of stress, fear, and broken routines, I knew I had to make a change. Pills had failed me. Quick fixes had disappointed me. The only sustainable solution was to rebuild my life in a way that would welcome sleep naturally at first. The task felt overwhelming. Where should I even start? But I reminded myself that small, consistent steps are more powerful than grand, unsustainable efforts. So, I began to adjust my habits, one by one, until they formed a rhythm of balance. These changes became the foundation of my healing journey. Let me share them with you in detail. 1. Saying no to evening caffeine was my secret weapon for surviving fatigue. But I didn't realize how long it stays in the body. Research shows that caffeine's half-life is around 5 to 6 hours, which means that if I drank a cup of coffee at 5 p.m., half of it was still active in my system at 11 p.m. That explained why I felt restless at night even when I was physically tired. So, I set a rule. No caffeine after 2 p.m. The first week was difficult. I felt drowsy in the afternoon. My body craved that kick. But instead of coffee, I tried drinking water, herbal tea, or simply stepping outside for fresh air and sunlight. Gradually, my body adjusted. And to my surprise, I began to feel sleepier at night. 2. Gentle music and relaxation rituals before. I used to go to bed straight from work, carrying all the stress of the day. My mind was like a busy highway at rush hour. No wonder I couldn't sleep. I realized I needed a transition period between my day and my night. I created a ritual, dim. The lights put on soft instrumental music. I'd spend 20 to 30 minutes stretching or reading something calming. Sometimes I practiced slow breathing, inhale for 4 counts, exhale for 6 counts. These small actions signaled to my body, it's time to slow down. Over time, my nervous system began to associate these rituals with rest, and my mind softened. Before bed, 3. No phone 1 hour before sleep. This was one of the hardest habits to break. My phone had become my bedtime companion. I thought scrolling helped me relax, but in truth, the blue light from the screen suppressed melatonin, the sleep hormone. Not to mention the endless stream of news, videos, and messages kept my brain active. So I made a firm decision. 1 hour before sleep, no phone. I charged it in another room so I wouldn't be tempted. At first it felt strange, even uncomfortable, like I was missing something. But soon, I discovered the joy of quiet evenings without digital noise. My thoughts slowed down, my eyes felt less strained, and sleep came more easily. For going to bed early and waking up on time for years, my sleep schedule was chaotic. Sometimes I went to bed at midnight, sometimes at 2 a.m., and on weekends, I slept until noon. I didn't realize how much this inconsistency disrupted my body's natural clock. It's a circadian rhythm, so I began to follow a fixed routine. Bed at 10:30 p.m., wake up at 6:30 a.m. every day, even weekends. The first few nights were rough. I tossed and turned, my body resisted, but I stayed consistent. After 2 weeks, something magical happened. I started to feel sleepy naturally around 10 p.m. and woke up refreshed without an alarm. My body had relearned its rhythm. 5. Creating a peaceful sleep environment. I used to underestimate the power of the bedroom itself. Sometimes there was clutter around, sometimes too much light or noise. My bed became a place where I worked, ate, and even scrolled on my phone. No wonder my brain didn't associate it with sleep. So I redesigned my bedroom. I removed unnecessary clutter, made sure the room was dark and cool, and reserved my bed only for sleeping. I even sprayed a little lavender oil on my pillow. My bedroom transformed into a sanctuary. The moment I entered, I felt calmer, as if my body knew, here we rest. 6. Light exercise during the day. At one point, I thought exercise would make me too energized to sleep, so I avoided it. But I learned that regular, moderate exercise actually improves sleep quality by reducing stress and helping regulate hormones. Didn't need intense workouts. A simple 30-minute walk in the morning sun, a few stretches in the evening, or gentle yoga was enough. Not only did I sleep better, but I also felt lighter, healthier, and more grounded in my body. 7. Respecting rest, not forcing sleep. Perhaps the most important shift was changing my attitude towards sleep. Before, I used to lie in bed, angry and anxious if I couldn't fall asleep. Now, if sleep didn't come right away, I told myself, it's okay, I'm still resting. My body benefits even from lying quietly. Sometimes I got up, made a cup of warm herbal tea, and returned to bed when I felt ready. This mindset removed the fear that had haunted me for years. Instead of chasing sleep, I allowed it to come naturally. The science behind these habits, each of these changes, might seem small, but together they worked because they aligned with how the human body is designed. Our bodies are ruled by rhythms: light and dark, activity and rest, stimulation and relaxation. By respecting these rhythms, limiting caffeine, dimming lights, avoiding screens, setting routines, and creating calm environments, we allow the brain to produce melatonin naturally, and the body to enter deeper stages of restorative sleep. Sleep, I learned, is not something to fight for, something to invite. And the invitation comes from the way we live our days. How you can apply this if you're struggling with insomnia. I encourage you to try these steps gradually. Don't pressure yourself to change everything overnight. Start with one habit, maybe. No phone before bed, or a set bedtime, and stick to it. When it feels natural, add another. Over time, these small actions build a powerful foundation for restful nights. Remember, Consistency is more important than perfection. Even if you have a bad night, keep your routine. Trust that your body is wise and knows how to sleep when you give it the right conditions. Looking back, these lifestyle changes became the turning point of my journey. They didn't just improve my nights, they transformed my entire life. I became calmer, healthier, and more in tune with myself. For the first time in 10 years, I began to trust sleep again, and that trust led me to the final part of my story, the results I experienced after committing to these new habits. When I look back at my 10-year struggle with insomnia, it almost feels like a different lifetime. For so long, I was trapped in a cycle of sleepless nights and weary days, believing that I would never escape. But after changing my daily habits and reshaping my mindset, something extraordinary began to happen. Sleep slowly returned to me not as a prize I fought for, but as a natural rhythm of life. The first results were subtle. I noticed that I was yawning earlier in the evening, my eyelids growing heavier without effort. At first, I still woke up in the middle of the night, but instead of panicking, I stayed calm. I reminded myself, it's okay. Rest is still rest. Sometimes I drifted back to sleep quickly. Other times it took longer. But even on imperfect nights, I felt a growing sense of peace. After a few weeks, the changes became undeniable. Was falling asleep faster, often within 20 minutes of lying down. The hours of staring at the ceiling, heart pounding with frustration, were gone. When I woke up in the morning, I felt refreshed instead of defeated. The fog that once clouded my mind began to lift. One of the most surprising results was how sleep transformed my daytime life. For years, I had accepted exhaustion as my normal state. I thought fatigue was just part of who I was, but once I started sleeping better, I discovered a new version of myself. I had energy to move, motivation to create, and patience to handle challenges. The smallest moments, sharing a meal, walking outside, listening to music, became brighter. More vivid, my relationships improved too. Before, I often snapped at people because I was irritable and tired. Now, I found myself more patient, more open, more present. Sleep gave me back not just my health, but also my kindness. Perhaps the most meaningful result was the return of trust in myself. For years, I had doubted my body. I believed something was permanently broken. But as I experienced night after night of better rest, I realized my body always knew how to sleep. It was never lost. It was only waiting for me to stop fighting, to respect its rhythm, and to create the right environment. That realization gave me a deep sense of gratitude. Of course, my journey was not about perfection. I still have the occasional restless night. But the difference now is that I don't fear it. One bad night no longer feels like a disaster. I know that my habits, my rhythm, and my mindset will guide me back to rest the following night. This freedom from fear is in many ways the greatest victory of all. Over time, I noticed even more benefits. My mood stabilized. With less anxiety and fewer emotional swings, my focus improved. I could read, work, and create with more clarity. My body healed faster from stress and minor illnesses. I felt connected to life in a way I hadn't in years. All of these results came not from a miracle pill, but from consistent, gentle changes in the way I lived each day. I often think of it as planting seeds. Each habit avoiding caffeine, turning off screens, creating a peaceful bedroom, exercising gently was a seed. On its own, it seemed small, but together, over time, they grew into a forest of calm and rest. If you are listening to this and struggling with insomnia, I want you to know something important. You are not broken. Your body still remembers how to sleep. It may feel impossible right now, but with patience, compassion, and small changes, you can rebuild that trust. Sleep is not something you have to chase, it is something you can welcome back, step by step. My story is not just about recovering sleep, it is about reclaiming life. And if I could do it after 10 long years of struggle, I truly believe you can too. So as I close this chapter of my story, I want to leave you with one final thought. Be gentle with yourself. Healing takes time, and that's okay. Small wins, stay consistent, and above all, trust your body. Sleep is your natural state. It will return when you give it the chance. Thank you for listening to my journey. If this story has inspired you, or if you found even one small piece of hope in it, I invite you to join me for more. I will continue to share stories, tips, and reflections on sleep, health, and peaceful living. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next story. Together we can create a community of rest, healing, and calm. Until then, I wish you peaceful nights and brighter days ahead.